every single day. They come. Letters from Archangel Michael. Digital letters, each one sealed on a USB drive, packed with printed images and words and signs. I open them every morning. I have been doing this for a long time now. Most days I open letter after letter. I read them. I receive them. I know which ones are meant for today and which ones are meant to wait. Today I opened 7 letters before this one. 7. And every one of them, I read it, I received it, I set it to the side, because as clear as they were, none of them made me stop. Then I picked up this one. I want to tell you something I do not say often. When I held this envelope, before I opened it, before I read a single word, something shifted in the room. I cannot explain it better than that. I have opened hundreds of these letters. I know the difference between a letter that is meant for another day and a letter that was meant to arrive right now. This one was not meant to wait. This one was meant to reach you today, specifically today. And I believe with everything I have that if you are watching this right now on this particular day, it is not because you clicked the wrong thing. It is because heaven made certain this letter found you. Let me show you what is inside. A digital letter, the words of Archangel Michael, prepared for today. Images. Heaven sent images with this letter. You will see them when the time comes. And predictions, written words, sealed until this moment. I have read ahead. I know what this letter carries, and I need you to understand something before we begin. What is in this USB drive is not a general message for everyone. The way this letter is written, it knows things. It speaks to things that only you have been carrying. Stay for every word. Stay for every image. Stay for every card. Because the letter is built so that what you need most arrives at the exact moment it was prepared to arrive. Do not skip ahead. Do not leave early. Are you ready? The letter begins now.
Stop. Before a single word of this message reaches your ears, I need you to do one thing. I need you to be still. Still your body. Still your thoughts. Still the noise of everything you were doing before you pressed play. Because what is unfolding in this room, in this exact moment, is not ordinary, and it will not be received by a distracted mind. It requires your full attention, your complete presence, your undivided soul. Now, I want you to see something. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, black ocean at midnight. The water is black. The sky is black. You cannot see where one ends and the other begins. You have been standing at this edge for a long time, long enough that your feet have gone numb, long enough that you stopped counting the nights, long enough that you almost convinced yourself this is simply where you live now, at the edge of something you cannot cross, staring into a darkness that never breaks. And then, without warning, without sound, without anyone predicting it would happen on this particular night, the horizon catches fire, not slowly, not gradually. All at once. A line of gold so brilliant, so sudden, so undeniable, that it takes your breath and your disbelief at the same time. And in the light of that breaking dawn, you can finally see. The ocean you thought was endless has a shore. The path you thought had disappeared leads directly to where you have been trying to go. Everything the darkness had hidden was never gone. It was simply waiting for the appointed light. That moment, that exact moment of the horizon catching fire, is where you are standing today. Today is not a repeat of yesterday. Today is not the continuation of a difficult chapter that refuses to end. Today is the horizon breaking. Today is the appointed light arriving. And I, Michael, the Archangel of Heaven's armies, have been sent specifically, urgently, and personally to make certain you do not miss it. My name is Michael. I stand in the presence of God. I carry the authority of heaven's decrees into the earth. I have been assigned to your life for longer than you know, and today I have been sent with a word that carries the full weight of everything heaven has been preparing behind the scenes of your story. Not a general word, not a broad encouragement for anyone who happens to be listening. A specific word, a targeted word, a word with your name written on the outside of the envelope and heaven's seal pressed deep into the wax. Today, this hour, this exact moment you pressed play, was written in the records of heaven, long before you woke up this morning. Do not rush this. Do not skim this. Do not let your mind wander into tomorrow's worries or yesterday's wounds while this word is being delivered, because what I carry for you today will not be delivered twice. The window is open right now. The word is alive right now. The appointed hour is now. And every sentence that follows is a piece of the picture heaven has been painting over your life since before you understood that a picture was being painted. Are you ready? Then listen, and do not move. There is a concept in the kingdom of heaven that has no perfect equivalent in the language of earth. It is called the appointed hour, not a scheduled meeting that can be rescheduled, not a deadline that gets pushed back when circumstances interfere. An appointed hour is a moment in the calendar of eternity, established with the precision of a master architect, a moment where the fullness of time, the readiness of a soul, and the perfect sequence of heaven's preparation all arrive at the same point simultaneously. Hear me on this. You cannot manufacture an appointed hour. You cannot pray one into existence faster than heaven designed it. You cannot delay it, not by doubt, not by defeat, not by the enemy's fiercest interference. An appointed hour simply arrives, and when it does, everything in the atmosphere shifts. Today is your appointed hour. Understand what that means. Not as a feeling, not as a poetic expression, as a fact with real, irrevocable, heaven-sealed consequences for your real life. Something in the invisible realm that has been building for years. A structure under construction in the spiritual dimension, piece by piece, stone by stone, in seasons you could not see, through processes you were not aware of. That structure reached completion today. The final stone was laid today. Heaven looked at what was built and declared, finished, ready, release it. And the release began the moment your ears opened to this message. There were those who heard this existed and put it off. Those who said, I will watch it later. Those who let the notification come and go. But you chose today You opened this message on the exact day it carried the maximum frequency for your life. That was not your wisdom alone. That was the hand of heaven moving on your behalf, guiding your attention, drawing your spirit toward the very thing that contained what you needed most. At the precise moment, you needed it. Feel that quiet confirmation rising in your chest, that sense that this is not a coincidence. That is your spirit recognizing the appointed hour. That is your soul remembering what your mind forgot, that heaven has been working for you, even in the seasons when it looked like heaven had gone silent. The silence was never absence. It was preparation. And today, the preparation is over.
This image came with the letter. Look at it carefully. This is the moment the letter was speaking about, the horizon catching fire. This is not a painting. This is a sign. Heaven sent it so you would see what is happening in the spirit over your life today.
I need to tell you something about those years you spent waiting. The long seasons, the hard seasons, the seasons that felt like they had no purpose and led nowhere. Because there is a truth about those seasons that heaven has been guarding, waiting for exactly the right moment to reveal it. You are never alone in those seasons. I do not mean that in the comfortable, vague way people say it when they have nothing better to offer. I mean it in the literal, specific, documented way of heaven. Every moment you move through, every morning you woke up and chose to keep going, every night you chose to keep believing, every hour you spent in prayer with no evidence that the prayer was reaching anywhere, there was a witness present. In heaven's courts, witnesses hold enormous significance. A testimony without a witness carries a fraction of the weight of a testimony that was seen and recorded. And in the seasons when you felt most invisible, most overlooked, most forgotten, most unseen by every person around you, the most important witness of all was present, not in front of you, not beside you, but watching, recording, testifying on your behalf in the courts of eternity. I was that witness. I watched you choose faith when circumstances offered you every justification for bitterness. I watched you give when you had barely enough for yourself. I watched you speak well of God in rooms where others spoke only of His silence. I watched you protect the people who wounded you, love children who did not know the cost of your love, and show up faithfully in roles that received no public recognition and no earthly reward. And I brought every single one of those moments before the throne of God, not as evidence against you, as evidence for you, evidence that you are exactly who heaven said you were, evidence that the investment of grace made in your life was not wasted on someone who turned away, evidence that your faithfulness in the hidden places qualified you for the promise always intended for the visible ones. Today, that testimony bears fruit. Today, the record that was built in heaven over years of your faithfulness becomes the legal basis for the breakthrough being released into your life right now. And it is a strong record. It is a deep record, built not on your perfection, but on your persistence, your willingness to return, your refusal to let go. You're tenacious, sometimes tearful, sometimes desperate, always real faith in a God you could not always see but chose to keep trusting anyway. Today, heaven honors that record, and I was there to record every page of it. If something in you needed to hear that you were seen, write the word witnessed in the comments right now. That single word is your acknowledgement that heaven saw you in the hidden seasons. It did. And today, what was seen in secret is being rewarded openly. I am going to give you a picture now, not an imaginary one, a glimpse of something real, something happening in the spiritual dimension at this very moment as you receive this word. Today, in the courts of heaven, your case has been called. Not a criminal case, not a judgment against you. A covenant case, a case in which the promises made over your life, the covenants spoken into your destiny, the agreements heaven made before you were born are being reviewed, confirmed, and released for fulfillment in the earth. Angels assigned to specific areas of your life, your health, your family, your finances, your purpose, received fresh instructions today, not the maintenance instructions they have been operating under during the waiting season. Deployment instructions. The season of maintenance is over. The season of deployment has begun. Understand what that means in practical terms. The invisible assistance available to you just increased dramatically. Doors that would have remained closed another 6 months are opening ahead of schedule. People who carry favor and resources your life requires are being moved into position today. Circumstances that seemed immovable are being repositioned by hands you cannot see, but whose fingerprints you will recognize when you look back from the other side of the breakthrough. You will notice it first in the small things. A conversation that opens a door you were not even knocking on. A phone call arriving with information you had been searching for in all the wrong places. A person who appears and immediately feels like they were sent, because they were. These are not coincidences. These are deployment orders being carried out. Pay close attention in the days immediately following today. The movement will be subtle at first, like the first trembling of the ground before the full shift. But it will be unmistakable once you learn to recognize the signature of heaven's hand in your circumstances. And once you see it the first time, you will see it again and again and again. Because once the deployment begins, it does not stop. It builds, it accelerates, it multiplies. Today is day 1 of a new movement in your life, and you are standing in the most important position possible, right at the beginning, with all the momentum of heaven gathering behind you.
A word came with this letter, printed separately, as if heaven needed you to see it on its own. Read every word of this, then let it settle.
Nothing that is about to happen in your life arrived without a cost. Not on your part, on heaven's. I will honor that cost by telling you the truth about what took place in the spiritual dimension in the time leading up to today. The enemy of your soul is not careless. He does not scatter his opposition randomly. He studies, he identifies, he develops targeted strategies for specific individuals whose breakthrough would most threaten his kingdom. And the fact that the season leading up to today was so relentlessly hard. The fact that the warfare felt so precise, so personal, so exhausting, is direct evidence of something you may not have fully recognized. The enemy knew today was coming. He saw it in the prophetic calendar of heaven, long before you felt it approaching. And he deployed everything he had to prevent you from arriving here, in a condition to receive it. Look at the specific nature of the attacks that came against you. They were not random misfortunes. They were targeted. The relationship that broke in the way most likely to make you doubt your worth. The financial pressure that arrived in the way most likely to make you doubt God's provision. The health challenge that came in the way, most likely to make you doubt His care for your body. The betrayal that came from the direction, most likely to make you close your heart. Each of these was precisely calculated to neutralize the specific kind of faith required to receive what today carries. But here is what the enemy miscalculated, and it is a fatal miscalculation. He thought the targeted nature of his attack would break you. He believed that making your warfare personal would make it fatal to your faith. He assumed that the more specifically he could wound you, the less likely you would be to keep moving toward the very thing he was trying to prevent. He was wrong about you. What he did not account for, what he never accounts for in the lives of those truly chosen for divine purpose, is the inexplicable quality of heaven-rooted perseverance. The quality that says, I cannot explain why I am still standing. I cannot explain why I did not quit during that season. I cannot explain where the strength came from to get through that valley. I only know that somehow I kept going. Somehow I am still here. That inexplicable quality is not your strength. It is the strength of the one who chose you, working through you, in spite of you, alongside you. And today, that strength shifts from the defensive posture it held during the battle season to the offensive posture required for the breakthrough season. The enemy spent years trying to stop you from arriving at today. He failed. You are here. And because you are here, because you survived what was thrown at you, and you are still standing, still listening, still believing, everything he spent to prevent this moment is now converted into fuel for what today releases. His greatest investment against you becomes heaven's greatest accelerant for you. That is the justice of God in real time.
This is what the courtroom of heaven looks like when your case is called. Your name, your promises, your record of faithfulness laid open before God. Archangel Michael himself stood there as your witness. Look at this and know it is real.
I will now speak with great specificity about where today's shift will be most visible. Heaven's movement in your life is not abstract. The breakthrough you are receiving is not vague. It is targeted. It is real. And it is arriving in the 4 areas of your life where the warfare was heaviest. Because those are the 4 areas where heaven's promise was always most significant. The first area, your peace. Not peace as an absence of conflict. That is a shallow version of what heaven offers. The peace being released over you today is peace as a presence. A peace that arrives like a person entering a room, substantial, noticeable, impossible to fake or manufacture. You will feel it in your body first, a release of tension you have carried so long you may have forgotten it was there, a relaxing in the places, shoulders, chest, jaw, stomach, where anxiety has made its home. A quiet settling that comes not from circumstances improving yet, but from heaven, establishing itself in your spirit, in advance of the circumstances catching up. This is not the peace of someone who has solved all their problems. This is the peace of someone who has been given the unshakable certainty that the problems are already solved, that the answer has already been prepared and is already in transit, and that today, the wait is ending. The second area, your provision. I am speaking directly to the financial anxiety, the financial shame, the financial exhaustion pressing against you in this season. Heaven sees it. The Lord is not indifferent to the practical realities of your life, the bills, the needs, the gap between what you have and what you require. He is not a God of spiritual abundance only, who blesses the soul while leaving the table empty. His covenant of provision covers the whole of your life. And today, the provision prepared, with your name on it, begins its journey from the spiritual dimension into the material one. It will not necessarily come through the channels you expect. Heaven's economy does not always use the same roads the world uses. Expect the unexpected. Expect surprise. Expect provision to arrive in forms and from directions that require you to recognize the signature of God on the delivery, because the channel alone will not make it obvious, but it will be sufficient. It will be more than sufficient. It will be the kind of provision that answers not just your immediate need, but opens the door to a new season of financial stability your family will feel for generations. The third area, your health. Whether you are carrying a specific physical burden or simply the accumulated weight of years of stress, grief, and spiritual warfare in a body that was not designed to carry that much for that long. Today, healing begins its movement. This is not a promise that every symptom resolves immediately, though for some of you, the immediate movement will be undeniable. For all of you, today marks the beginning of a restoration process in your body that the Lord is personally overseeing. Pay attention to your body in the days ahead. Rest when rest is called for, and receive the healing moving through you right now as real, because it is. The fourth area, your relationships. The relationship with the person who left without explanation. The relationship with the child who drifted. The relationship with the friend whose betrayal still aches in quiet moments. Today, the Lord begins a work of restoration in the relational dimension of your life. Some of what was broken will be repaired. Some of what was lost will be returned. And some of what you grieve will be replaced with something of greater value. Because heaven does not restore what was toxic. It replaces it with what is true. Trust the exchanges that are coming, even the ones that initially feel like loss. These four areas, peace, provision, health, relationships. This is where you will see today written on your life most clearly. Watch for it. Document it. And when you see it, come back and tell this community what heaven did. Your testimony activates faith in every soul still waiting for their appointed hour.
Heaven sent this image to show you exactly what is being released over you today. In all four areas, look at her hands. Look at the light. This is what surrender to heaven looks like. This is what receiving looks like.
There is a layer of this message I must now approach directly, not gently, directly, because it is a truth you need, and withholding it would be a failure of the assignment I was given today. Within the circle of people who have access to your life, people who know your name, your address, your story, your struggles, there is someone operating with a double face. On the surface, affection. In the interior, competition. On the surface, encouragement. In the interior, envy. On the surface, loyalty. In the interior, a quiet but persistent desire to see you stay exactly where you are, because where you are currently positioned makes them feel safe. You have sensed this. You may not have named it. You dismissed the feeling as your own insecurity, talked yourself out of the discernment because you love this person, or because confronting it felt more exhausting than ignoring it. And so you carried the awareness of it, and it added a weight to that relationship that should not have been there. Today, the Lord is not asking you to publicly confront this person. He is simply pulling back the curtain so that you see clearly, because you cannot fully step into your next season carrying the invisible weight of a relationship operating on false terms. The exposure is for your liberation, not for their judgment. What you do with the information is between you and God. But what you can no longer do, and what today makes impossible, is carry this without seeing it for what it truly is. And here is the grace in the exposure. Once you see it, you will understand something critical about your season. You will understand that the slowdowns you experienced, the moments when breakthrough seemed imminent and then stalled, the doors that cracked open and then swung shut, the forward movement that somehow turned sideways. Some of those moments were directly influenced by the spiritual weight of that masked relationship working against your progress. Once the mask falls and that influence is neutralized, those same kinds of doors will open and stay open. The forward movement will continue rather than reverse. The breakthrough will build rather than stall. The exposure is not the enemy of your peace. The exposure is the precondition for your acceleration. Let the curtain fall. Let what is hidden come to light. Let the Lord do what He does when He protects a soul He has invested in. Let Him clear the path, and receive this as the gift it is.
This word was sealed in the envelope. It speaks about the hidden face, the one the letter just named. Read it carefully. Heaven already knows what you have been carrying.
Now, I must speak to something living in a very quiet part of you, something you do not discuss in most conversations, something you may have been afraid to admit even in prayer, because admitting it felt like a faithlessness you were not sure God could receive without disappointment. There have been nights, long nights, heavy nights, nights that seemed to have no morning coming behind them, nights when you were not certain anymore that any of this was real, when the distance between the promise and the evidence was so vast that the promise began to feel like a story you had told yourself to survive, rather than a truth anchored in eternity. When the part of you trying to hold faith felt like it was holding a candle in a hurricane. Technically still lit, but barely, and only by the most desperate kind of effort. You may feel guilty about those nights. You may have classified them as spiritual failure. You may have wondered in the morning that followed the worst of them, whether heaven looked at you differently for having gone there, whether the doubt disqualified you from the very promise you were trying to hold. I was sent today specifically to address that question. And the answer is no. Hear that. The answer is no. Heaven did not look at you with disappointment in those moments. Heaven looked at you with something far more tender than most people allow themselves to believe God is capable of feeling. Heaven looked at you with compassion. The Lord watched you wrestle with the darkness, and He did not turn away. He did not revoke what He had promised, because your faith got tired. He moved closer in those moments. He leaned in. He held what you were too exhausted to hold by yourself. And He said, I know. I see how long this has been. I see what this has cost you. Hold on just a little longer. The appointed hour is coming. Today is the answer to every one of those long nights. Today is what all of that desperate, sometimes barely there, sometimes completely wordless faith was building toward. And hear this, it was not diminished by your doubt. It was not reduced by your exhaustion. It was not renegotiated because the journey was harder than expected. What heaven prepared for you in the beginning is exactly what heaven is delivering to you today. Fully intact, full measure, undiluted by everything the enemy threw at the process. Your long night did not diminish your promise. It deepened your capacity to receive it. The woman who receives a promise after an easy journey and the woman who receives a promise after the hardest journey of her life are holding the same promise. But they are not the same woman. You are the woman who came through the fire. And that woman carries a depth of gratitude, a depth of wisdom, a depth of stewardship that the easy journey version does not yet have. Heaven knew this. The length of the journey was intentional, not as punishment, as formation. You are being formed for what is now in your hands. Receive it knowing that every single night of the long wait was building in you the exact qualities required to carry what is coming, without losing yourself in it. Right? Here I am, in the comments. If today is the end of your long night, let that be your sunrise declaration.
The long night the letter is describing. This image was sent to show you what it looked like from heaven's side. God never stopped watching. That candle you were barely holding. He saw it every single night. Look.
There is something specific. I must speak about the women in your lineage. Your mother, your grandmother, the women who came before you in your family line. Because there is something you may not fully know about the prayers prayed over your life before you had the language to pray for yourself. There were women in your bloodline who believed in something they never fully saw. Women who prayed prayers that were answered in your life instead of in their own. Women who carried faith through circumstances that would have justified bitterness, and who laid down a spiritual inheritance that traveled through the generations and arrived in you. Their prayers did not expire when they did. Their faith did not evaporate when their earthly chapter closed. It was deposited into the covenant account of your family line, and you are a beneficiary of that account. There are answered prayers walking around in your life right now that began as intercession from a grandmother who prayed on her knees in a small room that nobody else knew about. There are open doors in your future that were unlocked by the persistent faith of a mother who chose to believe for her children when she had no evidence to stand on. You carry spiritual capital that was built across generations. Today, the full value of that account is being released to you. And hear the responsibility that comes with understanding this. What you do with what you receive today is not only for you. It is for the women who come after you in your line. Your daughters, your granddaughters, the young women in your sphere of influence who are watching, whether you know they are watching or not, and taking notes on what faithfulness produces. The inheritance you pass forward from today is shaped by how you receive, steward, and multiply what heaven releases to you now. You are not just a recipient of a generational legacy. You are a builder of one. What is deposited in your hands today is meant to grow and be passed forward. The cycle of answered prayer, of provision, of healing, of purpose. It does not end with you. It expands through you. And the women who come after you will stand someday where you are standing today and say, "This was made possible by the woman who stayed faithful in the hard season, by the woman who did not quit when quitting was justified, by the woman who received the appointed hour with open hands and a surrendered heart." That woman is you. Today, you are writing the next chapter of a story that began before your birth and will continue long after you are finished writing your portion of it. Write it well. Write it with faith. Write it knowing that heaven is watching and the generation behind you is taking notes.
This card speaks directly to the women who prayed before you. Their prayers did not disappear. They are here in your life right now. Read this and receive it as the truth it is.
What I am about to speak is more personal than anything else I have said today. A wound that lives not in the circumstances of your life, but in your relationship with your own voice. At some point in your journey, I cannot tell you exactly when, because for each person, it is different. You made a decision, consciously or not, to become quieter. Not quieter in the peaceful, confident way of someone who has found their center and does not need to be loud to be powerful. Quieter in the suppressed way of someone who learned, through experience, through criticism, through the accumulated weight of being dismissed, that speaking up cost more than it was worth. You learned to edit yourself before you spoke, to measure what you were about to say against the response you were likely to receive, to swallow the full version of your thought and offer only the abbreviated, softened, pre-approved version that would not provoke, would not surprise, would not make anyone uncomfortable. And over time, gradually, invisibly, in a way that felt like maturity rather than loss, you lost fluency in your own voice. You forgot what it sounds like to speak without apology. You forgot what it feels like to take up space in a conversation without immediately reading the room to determine whether your presence there is welcome. You forgot the power of your own perspective, the particular, irreplaceable, heaven-assigned point of view that is yours alone and that the world around you desperately needs. Today, I restore that voice to you, not as a command to immediately go and be louder, not as pressure to suddenly express everything you have been holding, but as a permission, a divine, heaven-issued permission to begin the process of returning to the full expression of who you are, to stop pre-editing, to stop apologizing for the size of what you think and feel and believe, to stop offering the abbreviated version when the full version is what the moment actually requires. Your voice was given to you for a reason. The specific pitch, the specific perspective, the specific wisdom forged in the fires of your experience. It was designed for the people who are waiting to hear it. There are women in your sphere of influence who need to hear you speak from the full truth of what you have lived and what you believe. There are conversations waiting to happen that will only happen if you show up at full capacity. Today, the silencing ends. Today, the permission is granted. Today, your voice is restored to its full measure, and heaven asks you to use it. Begin today, even in one conversation. Say the full thing instead of the safe thing. Start there, and let heaven take it from that beginning to wherever it was always meant to go.
The letter just spoke about your voice being restored, the full voice heaven gave you. This image was sent to show you what that looks like, what it feels like when a woman steps back into the full power of who she was made to be.
I must now tell you, with complete transparency and without softening a single edge, about a plan that has been in motion against you, not to alarm you, but because knowing the strategy of your opponent is the difference between being ambushed and being prepared. And in the courts of heaven, informed faith is always more powerful than uninformed suffering. There has been an active, coordinated, deliberate effort in the spiritual realm to prevent you from reaching the full expression of your God-given potential. This effort operated through 3 specific channels, and today I am exposing all 3. The first channel, delay. The goal was never your destruction. The enemy understands he cannot destroy what God has sealed. His goal was to push you far enough past the appointed hour that you would either give up before it arrived, or arrive so depleted that you could not receive what it carried. Every delay that seemed to come from nowhere, every door that closed after you had already begun to walk through it, every timeline that extended well past what seemed reasonable. This was the primary weapon. Today, the delay mandate is revoked. What was held back is being released. What was postponed is being advanced. What was slowed to a crawl is being accelerated. The second channel, isolation. The enemy understands the power of community, of agreement, of shared faith, of the strength that comes from being seen and known and prayed for by others who understand your journey. His strategy was to create conditions that made you feel most alone, the misunderstandings that drove wedges into relationships, the season of withdrawal that felt necessary for survival, but extended long past its purpose, the sense of being fundamentally different from everyone around you, too spiritual for some, not spiritual enough for others, always slightly outside of true belonging. These were not accidents. They were strategies. Today, the isolation mandate is broken. Real, meaningful, spiritually nourishing connection is coming to your life in the season ahead. Be open to it. It will not look like what you expect. The third channel, identity confusion. The most dangerous weapon the enemy carries against a person of divine assignment is not external. It is the tool living inside your own mind, and it goes by the name of false identity. The accumulated voices of rejection, criticism, failure, and comparison that construct, over time, a version of who you are that bears almost no resemblance to who heaven says you are. The enemy's most persistent effort has been to replace your heaven-written identity with a counterfeit version, one built on wounds, defeats, and the opinions of people who did not have the perspective of eternity. Today, every false identity label is removed. Every name given to you by your failures, your wounds, and your worst moments. Today, it is stripped away, and the name written in heaven before your birth, the one that describes the truest and fullest version of who you were made to be. Today, it is spoken back over you by the voice of God Himself. You are not your worst season. You are not your heaviest loss. You are the one heaven chose before you were formed. You are the one whose appointed hour arrived today. You are the one whose breakthrough is already in motion. Receive your true name. Walk in it from today forward.
Three chains named broken right now as you listen to this letter. This card was sent so that you would see them written down, so there would be no question about what heaven broke today.
There is something I must speak that many find uncomfortable, because it runs exactly counter to the instinct that years of fighting for survival creates. The word is surrender. Before you tense against it, hear what I mean, because what heaven means by surrender is profoundly different from what the world means by it. In the world's vocabulary, surrender means defeat. It means losing. It means laying down your weapons because the battle was too hard. It means the other side won. In heaven's vocabulary, Surrender means releasing control over outcomes you were never designed to control in the first place. It means the acknowledgement, courageous, faith-filled, deeply powerful acknowledgement, that the one who holds your future is infinitely more capable of navigating it than your anxious, exhausted, forward-planning, contingency-building, worst-case scenario-preparing human mind. The breakthroughs that have stalled in your life, some of them have not stalled because of the enemy's interference. Some of them have stalled because you have been holding them so tightly with your own hands that there was no space for heaven's hands to work. When you love something deeply enough to fear losing it, the love becomes a grip. And a grip, however sincere, is not the same as the open hands that heaven requires to pour the blessing into. Today, I am inviting you, with the full weight of heaven's authority behind this invitation, open your hands. Release the outcome of the relationship you have been trying to control through worry. Release the timeline of the financial breakthrough you have been trying to force through human effort. Release the health situation you have been managing with anxiety instead of faith. Release the future of the person you love most, who keeps making choices that keep you awake at night. Open your hands. Lay it all down, not in defeat, but in trust. Not because it does not matter, but because it matters so much that you are willing to entrust it to the one whose ability to handle it is infinitely greater than yours. The moment of surrender is often the moment immediately before the breakthrough, because breakthrough does not come through your grip. It comes through your openness. Today, open your hands. Say to the Lord, I release what I cannot control. I trust what I cannot see. I receive what you have prepared. And watch what begins to move in the space your surrendered grip creates. Write open hands in the comments if today you choose surrender over control. Let that declaration go forward as evidence that you trust the one who holds your future, more than you trust your own ability to manufacture it.
Open hands. This is what the letter is asking for. Not weakness, power. The power of someone who trusts what they cannot see. Look at this image. This is what heaven responds to.
I will not pretend that every person listening to this message is in a strong season of faith. I know that some of you arrived at this video from a very different place. Not from strength, not from confident expectation. Some of you arrived carrying faith so thin and worn that you almost did not press play, because hope has disappointed you enough times that protecting yourself from disappointment felt wiser than opening yourself to it again. This portion of the message is specifically for you. You did not come here by accident. You came here despite yourself, despite your protective instincts, despite the voice that said, "This will just be another thing that stirs emotion without producing change." Because something in you that is older and wiser than your disappointment recognized this as the appointed hour. Something in you that still believes, however faintly, however tentatively, however wrapped in the protective armor of probably should not get my hopes up, still believes. Heaven honors that fragile, almost extinguished faith more than you know. The faith that pushes through pain to show up is not smaller than the faith that shows up from a place of ease. It is greater. It costs more. And in the economy of heaven, faith that costs more carries more weight. You're thin, tired. This is my last try faith is sufficient. It is more than sufficient. It is precisely the faith the parable of the mustard seed was describing. Small enough to feel negligible, powerful enough to move mountains. Today, I am not asking you to feel confident. I am not asking you to pretend the disappointments did not happen. I am not asking you to manufacture a level of faith that does not feel authentic. I am asking you to do one thing. The one thing you have already done by being here. Stay. Stay for the rest of this message. Stay open enough to receive what is being released. Stay present enough to feel the shift when it happens. Stay willing enough to say at the end, something changed today, even if I cannot fully explain it yet. That is all faith requires right now. Not certainty. Just the willingness to stay open to the possibility that today is different from every other day that came before it. It is. And deep in the most honest part of you, you already know that. There is something happening across the world in this season that you must understand, because it is larger than your individual story. And understanding your place within it will give your breakthrough a context that makes it even more significant. Heaven is gathering across nations, across languages, across denominations and traditions and backgrounds. Heaven is gathering a community of souls in this generation who share one specific characteristic. They held on when holding on made no earthly sense. They stayed faithful through conditions designed to break them. They chose trust over bitterness, hope over cynicism, prayer over abandonment. When every rational measurement said the return on investment did not justify the continued output. This community is not small. And today, across the globe, this same message is landing in the ears of people who have been through the same long night you have been through. People who carry the same deep prayers. People who survived the same kinds of warfare. People who are standing at their own horizon on their own appointed day, hearing their own version of the same fundamental truth. Today is the day. The wait is over. The shift has begun. You are not alone in this moment. You are part of a global community of faith. Men and women, but especially women. Especially those who have carried so much for so long for so many. Who are all simultaneously crossing the threshold from the waiting season into the fulfillment season. There is a corporate movement happening right now in the spirit, and you are part of it. This is one of the reasons Letters from Archangel Michael exists. This channel is not merely a spiritual resource for individuals. It is a gathering point for people who understand that faith is not about ease, that breakthrough is not about deserving, that heaven's timing is not ours to control, but ours to trust. When you subscribe and show up for each message, you join a community walking the same road you are walking. You ADD your faith to theirs. You receive the benefit of their testimonies and offer the encouragement of your own. Community matters in breakthrough seasons. You are not designed to walk this road alone. And here, in this space, in this channel, in this gathering of souls who chose to stay when quitting was an option, you are not alone. Subscribe if you have not already. Turn on your notifications. Show up for every message that comes. Because the community forming around these letters is one that heaven is actively using. Each testimony multiplying into more faith. Each breakthrough becoming the proof the next person needed to keep going. Be part of what is being gathered. Your presence here matters more than you know.
This was sealed in the envelope for the woman who almost did not press play, the woman who almost did not stay. If that is you, read this. Heaven put this in here specifically for you.
This is a moment of acknowledgement that heaven asked me specifically to include. Because in all the language of breakthrough and blessing and appointed hours, it is easy to focus only on what is coming and to miss the honoring of what you have already carried. You are a woman who has been someone else's strength for a very long time. You held people together when they did not have the ability to hold themselves. You were the steady presence in rooms full of instability. You were the calm voice in crisis. You were the one who got up early to make sure everyone else had what they needed before you even sat down to think about what you needed. You prayed for the healing of others while carrying your own pain quietly. You celebrated other people's breakthroughs while waiting, patiently and sometimes painfully, for your own. Heaven saw all of that. Heaven recorded all of it. And today, the God who does not forget, who does not overlook, who does not owe any debt that goes unpaid, today he is honoring the service you rendered in the invisible. The provision coming to you today carries within it a specific portion that represents heaven's acknowledgement of what you gave when you had so little. The healing coming to you today includes within it a specific restoration for the parts of your body and soul worn down by years of carrying more than you were meant to carry alone. The relational restoration coming to you today brings with it specific people who will love you with the same depth and generosity with which you have loved others, because you deserve to be on the receiving end of that kind of love. And heaven is sending the people who are capable of giving it. You will not have to carry this new season alone. That is a promise. And in the season ahead, in the abundance that is coming, in the expansion beginning today, you will have the capacity to give in ways that are joyful rather than depleting. That flow from overflow rather than from the last reserves of someone running on empty. Giving from abundance feels entirely different from giving from scarcity. You are about to experience that difference. And the generosity that flows from that place of abundance will touch more lives, go further, and produce more lasting fruit than anything you were able to give from the hard seasons. Heaven honors what you did with the little you had. And heaven rewards faithfulness in small things with stewardship over great ones. Today, the great ones begin to arrive.
This image is for the woman who has given and given and given while waiting for her own moment. The letter says, "Your moment is today. Look at this woman. See yourself in her. This is what heaven sees when it looks at you.
There was a dream, and I will speak about it directly. Not a sleeping dream, a waking dream, a dream you carried in your heart, perhaps since childhood, perhaps from early in your adult life before the years convinced you it was naive. A vision of what your life could be, what you could do, who you could become, what you could contribute to the world around you. A dream with enough texture and specificity and emotional resonance that it came from somewhere real, not from your ego, not from worldly ambition, but from the place in you where heaven planted your purpose before you were born. You let it go, or you set it down, or life pressured it out of you through a combination of practical demands, critical voices, contradicting evidence, and the sheer exhaustion of still trying to believe in a beautiful future while navigating a difficult present. And now, maybe you try not to think about it. Maybe the memory of it aches in a specific way that feels too tender to touch, like pressing on a bruise that has been there so long you have almost forgotten which injury caused it. Today, I need to tell you something about that dream. Heaven preserved it, not as a record of something you lost, as a plan still in progress. Because that dream, the one you released or buried or grieved, was not yours alone to begin with. It was placed in you by the one who designed you. And he does not revise his designs simply because the circumstances of your journey required you to set them down for a season. He held what you could not hold. He kept what you let go of. He preserved the fullness of what he originally placed in you. Undimmed by time, unchanged by the long detour. Today, heaven returns it to you, not as a fantasy, as a living possibility with real traction in real time, because you are not the same person who first carried that dream. You are deeper now, wiser now, more seasoned, more grounded, more capable of the sustained effort required to bring something significant into being. The dream you carry today is the original dream plus everything you learned in the wilderness. And that combination, pure original vision, plus forged in fire wisdom, is what produces something extraordinary. What was it? You know what it is. It surfaced just now when I said those words, didn't it? Do not push it back down. Do not redirect the thought. Let it stay at the surface of your mind. Hold it gently, without gripping, without pressure, and simply say, maybe it is not over. Maybe today is the beginning. Because it is.
The dream you set down, the one you stopped letting yourself think about. Heaven kept it. It is not gone. This card was sent so you would see it written down with your own eyes. Receive it.
We are approaching the close of what was given to me for today, and before we cross the threshold into your new season, I must speak one final, authoritative word about the defeated enemy. The enemy of your soul is noisy in defeat. Hear this. Understand it. Carry it with you. Because there's a specific kind of chaos and a specific intensification of pressure that often accompanies a major spiritual breakthrough. And many people interpret that intensification as evidence that the breakthrough is not coming, when, in reality, it is the final desperate noise of a force that already knows it has lost. The roar gets loudest right before the silence. If the days following today bring with them a kind of disruption, relational friction, unexpected challenges, a fresh assault on your peace, do not interpret that as evidence that this word was false. Interpret it correctly, as the final noise of a defeated enemy who is furious about what was just released over your life and is making as much noise as possible before he has to leave. Your response in those moments is crucial. Not fear, not doubt, not the old, familiar shrinking. Your response is the opposite of what the noise demands. The noise demands anxiety. You give it peace. The noise demands retreat. You take one more step forward. The noise demands you question what you received today. You hold it more tightly. The noise demands silence. You open your mouth and declare out loud in whatever room you are in that today happened, that the appointed hour arrived, that the shift is real, and that nothing the noise produces is sufficient to reverse what heaven has set in motion. Speak it out loud if you are able. If not out loud, with every settled, resolute, fully intentional fiber of your faith. Say it. Heaven moved on my behalf today. The appointed hour arrived. The shift is real. The breakthrough is in motion. And the noise of the enemy has no jurisdiction over what God has decreed. Say it until you feel it. Then say it after you feel it. Then say it when you do not feel it. Because truth is not contingent on feeling. Truth is what it is, regardless of the atmosphere around it. And the truth today is this: heaven moved. You received it. The battle is won. The rest is the process of the promise manifesting in the visible dimensions of your life. And that process is already underway. Today changed everything. Live like it did. We have come to the end of today's word. You came here carrying something heavy, something made of grief, or waiting, or exhaustion, or disappointment, or the quiet, accumulated weight of years of being more for others than anyone was for you. Leave that here, not symbolically, truly. Set it down. Walk out of this letter carrying only what belongs to the new season. And the new season does not include that weight. What you walk out with is this: the knowledge that today was appointed, the certainty that heaven has been building on your behalf through every season that looked like delay, the permission to return to the full expression of your voice, your dream, your God-given identity, the assurance that every prayer prayed in the dark was heard and is being answered now. Carry that forward, because what you expect shapes what you receive. And after today, the only expectation appropriate for your life is more, better, soon. Heaven is on the move. Today, it moved for you, and it will not stop here.
This is the final image that came in the envelope, and it is the most powerful one. This is what heaven sees when it looks at you, right now, today, not where you have been, where you are going. Look at her, look carefully, and know this is you. The letter is complete. Every image, every word, every prediction sealed in that envelope. It was prepared for you, for this day, for this exact moment in your life. I want to ask you to do 3 things before you leave. First, write in the comments what today meant to you. Write the word Amen. Write what heaven spoke to your heart through this letter. Let your voice be part of what is being gathered right here, right now. Your comment is not small. It is an act of faith. Second, share this letter with someone who needs their appointed hour to find them. You may be the reason it reaches them today instead of never. Send it to 3 people. Be part of what heaven is doing across the world right now. Third, and I ask this from my heart, subscribe to Letters from Archangel Michael. Press that button and turn on every notification, because this letter is one of many that are coming, each one sealed with purpose, each one carrying a fresh word for your specific season. There is always another letter. Do not miss a single one. The horizon has caught fire. Your morning has come. I will see you at the next letter. Until then, walk in it,